Hi, hello from the Festival of the Earth and Wakefield Museums and Castles. My name is Julia Davis-Nosko, and I work in Greenware. And this is unfired clay, basically. It's just that soft, malleable clay. And what we're going to do today is really about making nature's decorations and just actually really thinking about how wonderful our natural world is. And also for us, and this is on the thing that goes with on the website, there's some resources, all these wonderful places we've got in Wakefield and environments, all the nature reserves, the museums and the castles, all of those sorts of things. And it's really there you can gain inspiration for what you're doing. And really these things that we make, and there's another couple of videos, they can easily be left on your doorstep or in your garden locally for you to look at and see what happens to them, because they're all actually living decorations and sculptures. So today we're going to make some things that actually, first of all, record what goes out there, maybe on your doorstep or your garden that we don't see. And I started experimenting with making tiles. So actually that you put down and see what little creatures, insects and birds and things do when we're not there, and the sorts of marks that they make. Now you may not be able to see that clearly. This was a flat piece of clay, and on it are all sorts of indentations of things that have happened over a couple of nights. And what the interesting thing, and I'm not sure you'll be able to see on the camera, I don't think you can, it's very delicate, but there's a mark here that goes a tiny little U shape, basically three prongs, and that's the sign that a little bird has been hopping on. But there's all sorts of pitted marks as well. On this one, here's the bit of bird food I left out there and is still on there with a bit of grass. I think you can see at the edge, it's all got sort of like pockmarked. I think this is all the rain that has gone on to here. But what I've done when I made them is to put two holes, because they're so interesting, the textures, you can hang them up. And what I'm also going to show you is some beautiful things that you can make with leaves. Now, amazingly, this that I'm going to show you is actually, I think it's either 4 or 5 years old. And it's just a beautiful, delicate decoration. If I just hang it up here, and it's kept this I think it's a poplar leaf. And if that's the back of it, but when it swings round, you see I decorated it with clay and all sorts of petals. And it's the clay, it's just held together. It's dried out, very fragile. And I put it on some fishing wire. They make the most beautiful decorations if you're careful with them. And each year, they change. So that when I first made this, the leaf was a much darker brown. It was actually one I picked up in the early spring, so I think it might have been greenish. And the petals were bright, but they've mellowed into this most gorgeous, subtle colours. And there's another one here I made in a different clay, a different sort of leaf shape. And here, it's still got all its decorations on, and you can just see there beautiful hydrangea petals that have been on there. And I sort of marked it with a few words on there, which is what you can do with clay as well, which we can do together. And a last one, which is it's the smallest one, so I'll put it in the palm of my hand. It's so delicate. And it's still got it's little, I think it's some rose petals I put on there. And they've got a lovely brownie. You put the camera down and you can see in the palm of my hand. They've got a lovely colour, but they're very delicate, and they're they're a reminder of all the different things that we have around us, but how it all changes. So what do we need to be doing this? You will need just something to flatten down the clay. You can do it with your hands, but something like this is good from the kitchen. Cocktail stick if you want to make holes, although careful of the end, and to actually write, if you want to write into it. A little bit of clay. And what I'm going to say about the clay is that, unfortunately, the clay comes in plastic to keep the moisture in. And I reuse all plastic that I get. I also do wrap sometimes things up in these beeswax things, but we have to be, we don't want to be making more plastic. So for me, the thing to do is to reuse things. And in clay, we're not eating or doing anything out of this. We're just trying to keep them together. So I will keep the clay wrapped up in that. So the last thing you need if you want to hang them up is a bit of invisible thread or fishing wire that you can use. And lastly, a little bit of water and a sponge. Just so if you get any of this clay on a table or anything, it needs to be wiped down. Don't be eating and drinking with it. Wash your hands afterwards. And any of that dust, the clay dust, it's not great. You want to be damping it down and getting rid of it that way. And I also work on just any old bit of card. I've got a piece of, packaging that I just put on the table to work on. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a little bit of clay and I'm rolling it in my hands. And as with the other video, I've made a living dome and made seeds in it. And you can put these out in your garden and photograph them and watch them grow. It's the same with this. You can actually hang these on trees outside, which I've made a video. We did one in the library, or you can keep them inside. I've kept mine actually inside this glass cupboard, and they've just lasted for years. So it does dry out. Clay does dry out. But if it's unfired, if you were to put, say, something like this dry tile into water, it would become clay again. So the firing is the thing that makes it, the word is vitrified, that actually takes it to a great heat and makes it indestructible. So many, many things, bricks are made of ceramic, things inside of phones, mobile phones are made of ceramic, because once it's fired to a terrific heat, all the moisture goes out, it vitrifies, and it's indestructible. And this is why you find so many old pots and things in museums that are thousands of years old. So it's almost like from one extreme to the other, indestructible, to when it's like this, it can always go back. So I'm interested in you can make beautiful things and it can always go back. So that's in line with thinking about the festival of the earth and all that we have and how we're looking after it. So I'm rolling this and I'm making it into a nice soft ball, and then I'm going to get my hands actually and squash it down into a malleable piece. This is actually getting a bit dry, gets cracked in when it's a bit dry because it's actually quite warm in here now. And that's clay. If it gets warm, it dries out quite quickly. So I'm going to start with another smaller piece and just roll that out. And put that back, and I'll dump that down in a bucket with some water and it will become clay again. So I'm squashing this down into just a flat little piece. Now, the other things that I've collected, and this is something you can have fun doing, is I've got a whole little, those apple cartons that I've reused, and I've got a whole just assembly of lovely things that I like. So I absolutely love these old dried out hydrangea petals. There was one actually that still had its colour in the leaf I showed you, but these have got the most amazing, the almost fairy patterns, which will show up in the clay. I've got some barley that I picked last year, which has got the most fantastic shapes in, and it's actually very, very strong. Bellflower, my favourite bellflowers. Lots of little herbs. I've got some leaves here that I've picked out because I'm going to make some, a few different new leaf decorations. This actually is curled up, even though I've only picked it half an hour ago. It's a coriander leaf. We'll see if we can do something with that. And also then these tiny little miniature rose leaves, they're interesting again in threes, so they'll make a different pattern. And I've got things like, you know, a little pansy flower to decorate and all sorts of things like that you can find in the garden. So have fun collecting. So there we go. We've got our flat piece there. I'm just going to take this and just batten it down a bit here. Nice, flat. It has to be, you know, any shape or size. Something flat so that it shows up your leaf. I'm going to try and make this, probably making a very loud noise, this, but I'm going to try and make this, this is the noise of, you know, the batten down. I'm going to make this quite thin so that we can peel off our leaf. Patient can do it a few times over. I'm hoping that that will be thin enough. Right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my leaves, and I think this is a honeysuckle leaf, and I'm going to put that just probably that way. I can experiment, but I'm going to put the upper side facing me. And do you know what? It doesn't want to stick on. So I'm going to try, although it's made a pattern, I'm going to try it the other way around. Is that better? And it is. I'm going to try it face down, and it likes it there. It's making a nice shape. And I'll just bring you down and just talk you through what I'm doing. So I'm smoothing gently this leaf into here. And then what I'm going to do is take a bit more clay, just a tiny bit, and I'm going to smooth that very gently on top with a bit of water, taking a bit of this and a bit of water. So I'm smoothing a bit of clay on top of the leaf very gently, like this. So what will happen is that all the beautiful veins will pop out at you, and you'll be able to see the structure of this amazing leaf form. And then I've decided I'm going to decorate this leaf, and I want to put on it a big, beautiful, or a couple of beautiful pansy petals. So I'm going to smooth that in that way and that way. So just gently get a bit of clay on, it's fine, will dry off. And then I'm going to take a tiny bit of this, what is called hibiscus, and it's a beautiful purply herb. I'm just going to dab it on there, bit of purple. On there, just make sure that's there. And then I really love these star anise, which you can get from health food shops, and they do make the most fantastic patterns into the clay. But I like the little eyes inside. You can take them apart, and what you get is that it's got a sort of like shell. And then if you prise them apart, you get these gorgeous jewel-like. They're very, very glossy. And I think I want to put that in the middle there, just in the middle of my decoration. Might not want to stay there, doesn't want to stay there. So what I'm going to do is get a bit more clay. This is where it's good. You sort of learn to experiment with these things. I'm going to put a little bit of clay in the middle so that it's almost like its own sticky bit. And I'm going to put that there, right in the middle. So I've got a leaf with some hibiscus round it and beautiful star anise. The star anise actually will smell absolutely gorgeous for a while. I'm going to take my cocktail stick and I'm gently going to sort of go around the shape of the leaf. So that the leaf itself is guiding me. Then just smooth it round like that. And then come around the other side. And you'll see that we have now what will happen as this dries out, and if I just show you this smaller one, this final one, it's so delicate, this one. I've also had 4 or 5 years. The leaf itself, the edge, it will show itself if you leave it to dry. It will actually show itself. So I've got a leaf there, and because I really want to use this as a decoration, I'm going to get my cocktail stick and I'm going to put a hole in there through the leaf and through the clay. So I've got a nice hole there. Then I'm going to come back to you. So I have got this. Now, this is where it gets to be fun, because I've got a whole surface on the back here where I go, oh, do I want to put any more decorations on there? Maybe I want to put another little leaf on the back, because it's just, I'll put a bit of damp on there. It just feels like, oh, that would be good. And I'm actually going to take off, there's a bit of an edge on that hole, and I want to make it, just going to smooth that over so it's nice and flat, and that finishes that off. So I'm thinking, oh, right, I smooth this down with my finger, bit of water, and again, it's got a nice smooth surface now. We've got another side to say, okay, what do I want to put on here? And I think that I want to use a bit of the mint leaf that I've got, because it smells absolutely beautiful, and it feels like a nice pattern that goes with the original leaf. So maybe I'm just going to take one of those and just stick it there. This decoration, as you can see it, but you can't smell it. It smells absolutely beautiful. So there's mint going all around the table. And I think what I want to do is I want to sign it. Now, because clay is at this stage, you can do anything with it. You could make like if you put that in, you could carry on and make some little dots around. Bring this down here again. I'll show you. You can make some little dots around and therefore make a little flower. So you can keep working into it. Or I'm thinking that I want to put my initials on here. So I'm going to use the cocktail stick and just put J, D, N. So I've got my initials on it. And I think what I'd really like to do is, as a memento, I'm going to put maybe 2021. So I'm going to write 2021 in here. And I'm going to write just leaf love, because I think it's a question of leaf love. Leaf and then love. So on one side, I've got this beautiful decoration there. On the other side, I've got more decoration and my signature and the date and leaf love. And then I'm going to get my bit of fishing wire. I'm very gently going to just push it through the hole. And here we go. So you can carry on making an assembly of these. You can hang them, just put them outside, actually see people will talk about them. They are very, very beautiful. I mean, I haven't used my favourite, but if I just take off one of these and show you, and maybe I need to put this on the back. It's one of these beautiful, feathery, tiny little hydrangea leaves. And I think I just want to pop that on the back as a memento of doing these workshops. It's so delicate, it's probably very difficult to see on the camera, but it's there, and you could make several of those, and it would almost like a little lace pattern. And the other thing you could do, for the edges, if you think, oh, I'm not sure about those edges, is to just carry on. You see, you can carry on and carry on. If it gets a bit dry, put a tiny bit of, do that thing with the sponge and just put a tiny bit of dampness down the edge. Not a lot, not a lot of anything. Anyway, I've got part of this bellflower, and I'm actually going to wrap it around the edge so that it creates a little, and maybe I can do that with I could take the whole bellflower, and there's different parts of it that are it's just so amazing inside. Take this set of 2, and actually put that next to it, and wrap it round. And there, if you wanted a lovely white silky edge, you could have one. So, there we go. Festival of the Earth, Nature's Decoration. And in 4 or 5 years' time, it might have changed. You don't know quite what that leaf will look like. And that's the joy of it. So if you keep them, you can enjoy them. So that's our wonderful Nature's Decorations.